Hi guys. So, we're gonna do a story time. And it's gonna be a story time about where Acela and I have been the past few months. You guys are gonna have to bear with me and forgive me for taking so long to get this video out to you. It shouldn't have. I don't know what my hair is doing. I apologize. You know what? Let me just eliminate the issue. There. Now it's done. Anyway, I need to apologize to you guys. We have been gone. But unlike all the other times I've disappeared, this time there was a very serious issue that happened. Acela ended up in the hospital for several months. 2 months to be exact, he was in the hospital. He came out of the hospital and was out of work for a month. But we could have very well lost Acela. We have been to specialists and hospitals. Basically, Acela's liver almost failed. And for those of you that aren't aware, if you're younger, you need a liver to survive. We didn't know whether we were going to be able, whether Acela was going to need a liver transplant, or whether he was even going to be allowed to have one because of the circumstances surrounding his liver. Basically, it was just a really, really, really hard 3 months, and we could have lost Acela. Like I had said, Acela got very close to death. There was a point for about a month and a half where for this one hospital, I'm not gonna say its name, but there was a hospital that we were under their care for the longest amount of time. The nurses staff at both places we were at was very kind, considerate, courteous. You know, they were great. Most of them anyway. A lot of them were. Some of them were not. But a large majority of it was they were very helpful, they were very kind, they were very considerate to what was going on in the circumstances surrounding it. But yeah, no. He could have died. It was very close. I'm gonna leave this video unedited because it's gonna be long, it's gonna be rambly. Well, it might not be long, but it's definitely gonna be rambly. But basically what had happened was we noticed that Acela had started to get yellowing on his skin and eyes. And we noticed it about 2 weeks before we did anything, that, you know, hey, you're getting yellow, you shouldn't be that color. Healthy people aren't yellow. Which it's no secret that Acela and I used to drink quite a bit. If you'd been to any of our streams, we ran a lot of streams where we would just sit and drink. But doing that had caused major health issues within him, and basically his liver was in the beginning stages of cirrhosis, which basically means his liver wasn't working. I'm taking the hat off, I'm sorry. His liver wasn't working. It was shutting down. His body was shutting down, and they didn't know whether they were going to be able to stop it or not. Honestly, we were told that if he had waited any longer, he wouldn't have pulled through. He wouldn't have made it. It was a really hard, really difficult 3 months to deal with. For those of you that don't know, if you've watched any of my earlier content before everything else, before I moved out here, back towards the start of my channel, back when my Tourette's was really bad and I was in and out, you know, trying to make this all take off, we had a little girl named Destiny. Well, I say had. We still have her. She's alive and well. But Destiny was born with a failing liver. And so whenever I found out that this was all happening to Acela, I shut down. I was not okay. And my main concern was trying to focus on him getting better. Before, like I was saying, though, the first hospital we were at, I'm not going to say names of hospitals. Just, there was a hospital here that we took him to, that we had all of his care under. We thought, we'll take him to the hospital, it'll be okay. We took him to the hospital that was in network for his company that he was working under at the time. The company that he was employed under, so that we could afford to take him to the hospital. Well, we took him to the hospital, took him to the emergency room, found out his levels were not okay, or not where they needed to be, and they admit him that day. That was during my last stream on Twitch. I was making my amped guard weapons. I was making my LARPing weapons. Found out that his numbers were way, way, way elevated. His liver enzymes were not where they needed to be. And his bilirubin was sitting at about I think it was like 7.8. It's not terrible. It's not great. A bilirubin level is basically the stuff, it's causing him to be yellow. That level is supposed to be anywhere between 0 and 1, and his was up at 7. Well, as these stays progressed, we were in that first hospital. That hospital stay, that to begin with, was 5 or 6 days. I don't remember. We got him out. They didn't treat him. They didn't treat him at all. They hooked him up to a saline bag, said, we're just going to monitor. I'm going to call this asshole out. I won't say his name, but you were an asshole. The GI that we had, bedside manner was terrible, didn't talk to us, didn't answer questions, was just a complete tool, refused to talk to myself or Acela. And there were times whenever we woke up, we had waited all day for the GI to come in, and there was this one day, I'm still angry about it. I'm still very hurt and upset and feel very disrespected, and felt like our concerns and things weren't being heard, we weren't getting listened to. This GI decided to come in, start poking and prodding at Acela with neither him nor I awake, and then as soon as we roll, all I heard Acela groan and like he was in pain. I am not a light sleeper when it comes to things like Acela. Anytime he's been, even before he got super sick, anytime he was sick or hurting or, wasn't feeling well, whatever, I am very in tune with Acela. And so anytime he was not okay, he would just have to roll over or move wrong or grunt, I would wake up. But I saw this doctor and this doctor's assistant or his nurse, I don't know, maybe his trainee, who, by the way, I'm not bagging on the trainee. She was very nice, very considerate. She was wonderful. The rest of his team was wonderful. They were great. They were good people. It was unfortunately, it was our particular doctor that was an ass. So, okay, anyway. It was poking, prodding at Acela, and as soon as I woke up and sat up in bed, he quickly turned and tried to walk out of the room, and I said, "Excuse me, what's going on?" And he put on this stupid plastered fake smile and continued on and talked to me like I was 2 and told me basically I didn't know what I was talking about. It was a mess. Anyway, that doctor was an ass. His first 2 attendings were assholes. We could never get anybody to talk to us. The nurses were kind, polite, considerate, and gave us any information that they were able to get. Most of you will know, if you've ever been in a hospital, nurses are not permitted nor get all of the information that most of the patients want and need. They can relay your lab results, things like that. And so our nurses were always very kind and considerate, trying to always make sure we had what we needed, both myself and Acela. They weren't the issue. The fact was the doctors were the issue, and the doctors that wouldn't treat Acela specifically were the issue. So we went for about a month and a half not getting treatment. We went back to this hospital twice. For those of you that don't know, whenever your liver and things aren't working, you start to take on fluid. That's the best way I know how to describe it. It makes your torso or wherever it's holding it, usually it's your abdomen area, like where your stomach's at, will become distended or extended as it fills up with this fluid. And Acela was having a huge issue with that. He was retaining water because his body was storing it instead of processing it and pushing it through as, urine, or, it wasn't processing. His system wasn't processing. His body was shutting down. It was an issue. It's an issue that comes along with the fact that the liver was failing. It was very, very scary. For me, it was super traumatic. I had to come to terms with the fact that they might not have been able to stabilize Acela. I had to come to terms with the fact that I might not have got to come home with Acela. It was very, very serious. For that first part of that stay, I tried to keep videos out. I had a couple of stock videos saved up that I did release. In fact, I just released the last one not too long ago, but I had already been without a video for a while. It was very, very hard, guys. I can't emphasize that enough, and I hope you guys can forgive me. Because I do enjoy getting on here. I do enjoy putting out content. I've been trying to continue with Twitch since we got home. Sitting down, recording, and editing, I haven't been able to do. I haven't been able to go out and get content because I'm still very much concerned with Acela's health. He is okay now. His numbers are coming back down. There's no permanent damage done. But like I said, that first hospital we stayed at for a month and a half, nobody treated him, and he kept getting worse. His numbers shot through the roof, a number that was supposed to be down anywhere from, I think it's don't hold me to it, I think it's 25 to 40, or 15 to 40, something to 40, was up in the 400s, 500s. And his bilirubin actually got up to, I think its highest was 20.7. And that was by the time that we'd gone to the second hospital. He was still at 20.7. Nobody had treated him. It was bad. They had moved him onto a liver specialist unit, which, by the way, the whole reason that we had gone to this second hospital was because Acela got assigned to specialist because of this asshole GI that said, "I'm not touching your case. Your name's as good as gone to me," because Acela was an alcoholic. Yes, Acela drank. Yes, Acela enjoyed to drink. It makes things more fun to him. He enjoyed it. He was an alcoholic. That does not give you the right as a healthcare professional to treat somebody the way you treated him. It doesn't. I'm sorry. If it's an unpopular opinion, if it's not fair, I don't give a shit. And I'm getting very angry and heated thinking about that because I've already gone through this. And whether it is a child, an adult, I don't care what they've done. Your job is to treat the patient. Your job is to make sure that patient is okay. That is your whole goal, is to make sure that they are okay. And if they are not, your goal as a healthcare professional is, okay, what can I do to help him? This doctor did not want to do that. This doctor says, "You have ruined your life. You're going to die. Get your affairs in order." Yes, these are all things that he said. Came in the first day. As soon as he heard the word, "Oh, well, I drank. I'm an alcoholic," come out of Acela's mouth, it was game over from then on out. He didn't care. He was done. He didn't want to deal with him. Didn't want to answer questions. Acela was as good as dead to him. And it was hard. When you find somebody in life and you love that person, and you basically have this guy come in, and as soon as he says, "Yeah, I struggled with alcoholism," or "I struggled with anything," and it's put me where I am, and he's already admitting it. He already knows that his stuff isn't looking good. But also, Acela's levels were nowhere near death. Yes, because of the fact that they couldn't stabilize him, his odds didn't look very good. But the fact that they did stabilize him and people were still coming in and telling him, "You're going to die, get your affairs in order, da-da-da-da-da." This hospital that was not treating him, mind you, would not treat him, refused to treat him, told him they were treating him every time and hooked him up to a saline bag, or hell, just came in and drew labs every morning, anywhere from 1 to 3 to 5 a.m. We're not treating him, just watching his numbers climb. I'm sorry, because right now it still hurts me knowing that I got very, very close, and these jackass doctors that I was being told are supposed to help weren't doing anything. Anyway, the jackass GI basically told us without even seeing Acela, "I'm referring your case. Tell him I don't want to see him. Tell him I don't care what you tell him." As he's not even telling us this. We called his office because we were supposed to go get labs run through his office after our second hospital stay. Getting told that, well, you need to go and get your labs done. We'll check back in, da-da-da-da-da. So we were going over there, and we were trying to schedule an appointment to see this GI. Mind you, the first time we went to this hospital, Acela had to threaten to AMA out because of the fact that they had held him for 5 days and they weren't treating him, they weren't doing anything. He's like, if you guys aren't going to treat me and all you're going to do is continue to monitor, he's like, I can come in and get my labs drawn from home. After 5 days in this hospital with nobody treating Acela and us being treated like garbage and nobody wanting to listen to us, both of us were done. He was done, I was done, no one was listening, nobody wanted to communicate. We were done and ready to go home. So he had to threaten to AMA out. If anybody does not know what that means, AMA basically means you are signing yourself out. You are refusing medical care despite whoever's telling you you need to stay. He didn't have to AMA out. The jackass GI was the only one telling him that he wasn't going to sign his papers. He was going to keep him to stay. Our doctor, the floor doctor, was saying, yeah, I'm going to send you home. Even this GI's nurse, like the one that I was saying was the one that came in with the jackass GI, was saying, no, I see no reason that you need to stay. The guy that had seen him the day before, we will call him GIB. GIB was amazing. He was wonderful. He was a great all-around guy, listened to us, said I would be happy to continue care. Said that, I see no issue sending you home. We'll just have to monitor your stuff. We'll keep a close eye on it. This GI, GIA, jackass GI, said, well, I'm not going to sign. Tell him he's staying. I'm not signing. And so Acela got angry and said, you can either sign my papers or treat me. And he said, well, I'm not going to do either. And he said, well, then I will AMA out. And he said, well, if you're just going to AMA out, then I'm going to sign your papers. Because if you AMA out of a hospital, if you refuse medical treatment from a hospital, insurance, 9 times out of 10, will not cover that stay. Anybody who's ever stayed in a hospital knows how costly that is. I mean, it's tens of thousands of dollars, if not hundreds of thousands, depending on how long you've stayed. But basically told him, I'm not going to sign. Which was hard the second time we went into the hospital, because the second time we went in, they tried to assign us the same GI, and Acela said, if you bring that man into my room, I will call for security to come and remove him. He said, I will not work with that man. He's not coming back in, because we had to go back to this same hospital. We live in Memphis, for anybody who doesn't know that. Even here, with all the hospitals we have, not all the doctors are great, just like anywhere. But this guy was terrible. I would not recommend him to anybody. I would say if you get assigned him, run as far away as you can, because his bedside manner is terrible, and he's just not a great guy. Anyway, make it through the first week at the hospital. This is all the first week in the hospital. Make it through the first week. We finally get home. We're home for 2, maybe 3 days. We go to eat dinner with Acela's parents, and they convince him that he needs to go back to the hospital because his abdomen is filling with fluid again. And so both Acela and I, neither one of us want to go back. He's saying, no, I don't want to go back. I don't want to go back there. No one's listening to me or him. Anyway, he gets carted off to the hospital. So they take Acela to the hospital, which, mind you, he needed to go back, but both of us were so fed up with the hospital and stuff at that point that neither one of us wanted to go, despite it probably being in his best interest. His parents were right. His abdomen was filling very rapidly with fluid. He needed to be there. That stay was probably about 3 or 4 days, so not as long, but it was still quite some time to be in a hospital. So we were there 3 or 4 days. Finally got him drained off of the paracentesis, which is basically a procedure where they go in with this big tube and it's attached to like this vacuum, and they just suck out all of this liquid and fluid on his abdomen. Get out. No, demon. I'm sorry, my cat's a jackass. Basically they go in and drain off all of this fluid that was on his abdomen. They took off, I think it was 250 milliliters, which is a lot of fluid. I don't know what that transfers over to in any other thing. I know it was about 250 milliliters the first time. Mind you, had this procedure done again at the other hospital. But that's the third stay, and I'll get to that in a minute. They had gotten all of this done. They had taken this fluid off of him. They had checked it. Nothing was infected. Nothing was growing bacteria. It was just part of it. We were told that, once again, we had a new doctor who was also like the floor doctor. The doctor that you have that's assigned to your floor. It's your floor doctor. It's the attending doctor. You get usually an admitting doctor and an attending doctor that's on the floor. And sometimes that'll change. You don't know who you're going to see from one day to the next in the hospital. Because that doctor could say, I'm here for today, and tomorrow you won't see me. I'll be here for 2 days, and after that you won't see me. It's very frustrating. It makes getting, any sort of information passed back and forth accurately between doctors very, very hard. It's like a giant game of telephone. For any of you that played that as a child, or any of you that play that now, you know that when it starts down the chain over here at chain A, by the time it gets to the end of that telephone or to the last person, you might not have the same information. And they try to keep it all sorted on a computer, but then it's just a giant game of phone tag because sometimes not all the information gets relayed. Well, our second stay, we stayed 3 to 4 days. We requested to see the other GI. They came in the second time for his kidneys because they gave him a bunch of medication at the beginning of his stay for hospital stay A, the first one, that was shooting his kidneys. So his kidneys were now trying to start to fail. So they had to take him off certain things and monitor him for the second hospital stay. That's what got us in that second hospital stay, why we had to stay. So they were watching and monitoring his kidneys. We got GIB back for our second stay because we refused to work with GI Jackass A. And so they gave us back B, who had already been familiar with Acella's case, and said, here, we'll talk to him, we'll see what he says. He came in, took one look at Acella, and said, man, you look great. You look worlds better than what you did whenever I first saw you. And so he moved him, said, yeah, I'll sign off. Our floor doctor that time said, yeah, I'll sign off. Everybody signed off, we went home. Okay, come down to about hospital stay 3. GI Jackass A signed off on Acella's case at the first day after all that blood work and lab work. Said, I'm not touching him. I don't want to see him. Don't send him to me. Which is why we got rid of him for second hospital stay B. He said, I don't want to see him. Want nothing to do with him. I'm sending his case over to a specialist over at hospital B. So we go and see the specialist to make an appointment. We wait over a month to meet up with a specialist. So we've been through 2 hospital stays already. Nobody has treated Acella. Nothing has happened. He just keeps getting worse. We're getting told, make plans, get your affairs in order, figure out what's going on. So that's where we're sitting right now, guys. That is where, at this point in the story, we are sitting at. We don't know whether Acella is going to live or die. We don't know whether, how much time we have. We don't know how bad it is. We don't know if it's still progressing or not. I mean, we have lab results that are saying, yeah, he's still getting worse. Yeah, he's still getting worse. No, nothing is changing. He has not gotten better. So we go through all this. My food's gotten cold again. Oh no, sorry, ADD. We go through all of this and get told basically, well, go to the specialist, see what the specialist says. So we go to see the specialist. We go to see the specialist. Me, Acella's parents, and him are all at this office. Acella looks worse off than anybody that's sitting in this room. I mean, nobody that's sitting in here looks like they have the jaundice as bad as they do, which is the yellowing of the skin and eyes. They don't, I mean, everybody looks like they're in rough shape. Some of them don't. I mean, some of them look like they're managing, but all of them are a lot older than Acela, and a lot of them are looking like they're doing better than what he is. At this point, Acela is having no energy. He's sleeping most of the day still. He's sick. I'm getting up. I'm taking care of him. I'm trying to make sure that he has everything he needs. At this point, basically, I was told to make him comfortable because we don't know what the outcome of this is going to be. We get him back into this appointment. We get told we aren't going to know whether you're going to have a transplant or not. Mind you, this whole time, every doctor that we're seeing is saying, he's going to have a transplant. He's going to have a transplant. He's going to die without one, but we don't want to give him one. Yeah, the guys that are saying he needs a transplant to live because it looks like we're not going to be able to stabilize him, he's going to have a transplant, are also the ones saying we don't know if we're going to give him one because he's an alcoholic. We're getting told that he's not worth saving. And so I'm a mess. Acela's in Acela's own head. He's continuing to tell himself that he's fine, nothing's going to happen, he knows he's going to be okay. I have PTSD from this issue. I didn't see any scenario where this was going to be okay. And especially because I've been with this man for 2 years. I've learned his mannerisms. I've learned to watch what he says, how he acts. I've learned to interpret all of these things. And I also know that because of my past trauma with this issue, that I was not as clear and level-headed as I needed to be at times. And so I was scared, and a lot of times whenever I would talk, my fear was talking. But I also knew that I had to be there to stand up, to say things, to get everybody to listen to Acela, who was ignoring him. And so I was trying to do that as well. I was trying to manage my own stuff and manage his at the same time. And it was very, very difficult. It was very, very hard for me. Through all of this, I wanted nothing more than to take him home to be told that he's going to be okay. I wanted us to continue our plans of, talking about the future, about getting married, having kids, getting a house. Things that people mine in his age should be talking about. That's all we should be worried about. And that wasn't what we were getting told by anybody. So we left the specialist appointment feeling terrible. All this time, the specialist had ran labs. He had his own labs drawn. He wanted to look at everything. He said, listen, I don't want to take this other hospital's word for it. I don't have all of the tests that I should have had. Let me run some tests, and then I will get back to you next week. We're like, okay, sounds good. Thank you. And so we get what we need. We go home. We'd just been dropped off. We get called by the specialist later that day. I remember because I was at Kroger picking up food and things so that Acela could start a new job. In this process, Acela has quit working at his job that he's had for the past 8, 9 years, something like that, and has moved over to this new job. And all this time, we're stressed out about trying to get him set up for the new job in time to start at his start date. He's going in and out of the hospital. We don't know if we're going to be able to get the new job now, even though he's had it on lock. We're trying to work with his new job's HR, trying to figure out what to do to get his old HR off of our backs. It's just super stressful. It's stress on top of all of this stress from Acela already being sick. And so a lot of this time, we are all very unhappy. There were lots of tears. There was lots of anger. There was a lot of butting heads. It was a stressful time. It was a traumatic time. So instead of everybody banding together, a lot of us were concerned about what was the best way to handle it, and a lot of us had varying opinions. And so this whole time we're going about it, we're fighting, we're trying to figure out what to do. Anyway, we get called later that night saying your kidney levels and things, aren't okay. Because the specialist put Acela on a couple different drugs. The one that had caused the issue was one that was supposed to make his kidneys pull the fluid off of his abdomen since his liver was not. Got told that the kidneys were now going to be shot if we don't figure out what to do. So the kidneys are now shutting down. The liver's shutting down. The kidneys are shutting down because of the medication he was on. So we go back to Hospital B this time, which is the hospital that finally looks at him, puts him up on the liver unit. This is the specialist hospital. There were no specialists over at the other hospital. We got traded off over here by Jackass GI from the first day. Says, come back. I need you at my hospital. Be here tonight. We ignored that. We went in the morning. We got called again. They were mad. Blah, blah, blah. Anyway, we went back the next day. Neither one of us wanted to go. Neither one of us wanted to be there. We were all pretty much done. This is almost a month and a half into this where nobody has treated him. We're going back to stay at another hospital. We're thinking that it's going to be another thing. They go in, hook him up to an IV bag. Call it good. They did not. They treated him. They gave him certain infusions. They started him on different rounds of medications that were supposed to be used to help this along, which Acela is still on a large majority of them. Even though his levels and things are returning to normal, they want to keep him on him. They want to keep him on them for a while, just to make sure everything is fully back to where it needs to be, that it's functioning how it should. We get to the second hospital. We don't get assigned Acela's GI from downstairs, or Acela's specialist from downstairs. We don't get our guy. We get the floor doctor, which is apparently his partner, who is an ass, who decides that Acela's laying there in pain, can't talk because everybody's refusing to drain off the fluid in his abdomen like they said they would. Everybody's refusing. Nobody wants to do it. Everybody's angry. This guy wants to be a jackass, yell at me, tell me I don't know what I'm talking about, that it doesn't matter what everybody's saying, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, yells at me. Acela's in pain, can't talk, doesn't want to talk to anybody, is constantly falling in and out of sleep. This guy's coming in with an entire team and telling us that I know nothing, I need to keep my mouth shut, that is where I belong, is in that chair silent, that I am not to say a damn word. And he basically says, you're gonna die. I'm not transplanting you. I'm the head of the transplant board. So you basically need to impress me, or you're not getting approved here. Very big-headed, very big God complex. And I was very, very upset. I had just been told that I don't need to talk, da-da-da-da-da-da, blah, blah, blah. This guy comes, the guy leaves, head of the transplant board leaves, after he's said his speech, been an asshole. I'm sitting in the other room crying, very upset. Acela's trying to calm me down. Basically, our on-call, or our doctor for that day later comes in. Acela's out of the room for more tests or to get something else done. He was in and out of his room a lot because they were prepping for transplant. We were actually stationed and put up on the liver transplant floor because they didn't know whether they're going to have to put him in front of a liver, like the transplant board, or not, to see if they were going to have to give him a life-saving transplant right then. So we were prepped and went through the classes and schooled for the worst. We were told to expect the worst. Later, when they came in, they said, while Acela was gone, I was told on my own, with no one around, mind you, to help me process the news. Odds are not in his favor. More than likely, he's going to die if he does not get a transplant. At best, your chances are 50-50. They said, and that's at best. Those aren't good odds. Those aren't good odds for anybody, hospital or not. 50-50 is not great. It was very terrifying. I was scared. I was emotional. I was crying. I'm 22 years old. Acela's going to be 31 soon. He's not ready to die. I'm not ready to lose my partner. In a matter of a couple of months, Acela and I went from being best friends to worst enemies. We have worked through a lot of our stuff, but it was hard. It was hard. We've almost broken up several times because of everything that had happened. And the entire time we were just getting told, get your affairs in order, you're gonna die. We'd have 2 or 3 people who would come in and say, hold on to hope, except for these wonderful nurses. I am going to shout out Nurse Wendy, because Nurse Wendy, you were the bomb. I loved you. If it was not for you, I would have not have been okay. Nurse Wendy at Hospital B came through for me in ways that nobody else could. She was constantly there. She wasn't even our nurse. She was the head night shift nurse. So Nurse Wendy, if you ever see this, I appreciate and love you. You were the best. You helped me when nobody else did. And whenever everybody else was telling me it's not going to be okay, he's going to die, nothing we can do, blah, 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 you were like, sweetheart, it's going to be okay. I'm here for you. If nobody else is, you wait for me to come in and we will sit and talk. It will be okay. Guys, like I said, I'm 22 years old. I've gone through an issue twice in my life that most people are fortunate enough never to go through once. I knew the odds walking into it weren't great. If it was not for Nurse Wendy, I would have not have made it through any of that. That last hospital stay almost did me in. And I am still dealing with a lot of it. I still have a lot of fears and don't want to screw things up and try to make sure that Estelle and I are doing everything that we need to do. But I will shout out Nurse Wendy, because Nurse Wendy helped spare my sanity and save my life throughout all that. Nurse Wendy was my angel, who constantly told me to keep hope, that it's going to be okay, that everything will be fine. She felt like everything was going to work itself out. Nurse Wendy was amazing. She was one of the best nurses that I've ever met. She was the MVP. Throughout all of our stays, Nurse Wendy was my favorite out of anybody that we had to work with. Anyway, they start Estella on treatments, trying to figure out what they need to do. And the funny thing is, something that is not usually what helps fix things started fixing things. They hooked him up to something called albumin human. It is an infusion. Basically, it's stuff taken from other people. It is broken down to basically just albumin, which is something that is processed throughout your body. It is taken, and we start Estella on albumin infusions. And they have him hooked up every 4 hours, every 4 hours for or every 8 hours for 4 hours. And so he's on albumin for 4 hours, off for 4 hours, and they start another one, round the clock, 24 hours a day. And we start seeing improvements. We start seeing his numbers go down. We start seeing his color go back to normal. We start seeing Estella wake back up and rejoin the world. And we finally, for the first time, feel like maybe we're going to make it through this. Maybe he's on the upper hand of the 50. Maybe we're going to be okay. That 50-50 that was crushing us might be working on our side now. Thank God Estella is 30. I know a lot of people won't say, oh my God, I'm 30. Thank God for that. Thank God Estella is 30. And thank God we got him to a hospital when we did. Because if we wouldn't have got to the hospital and found out that was what our issue was, he would have died. He would have not been here. Thank God Estella is 30, guys. Because if Estella wasn't 30, his body would have had... 30 is a tipping point. 30 is where your body is either still going to recoup very, very well or not. Thank God Estella is 30. Because if he was not 30, he probably would not have recovered the way that he did. He probably would not have stabilized the way that he did. Like I said, Estella's almost 31. Estella's right on that tipping point for medical things to go from your odds being 50-50 to your odds being like 30-70. Estella was very, very fortunate. We were very lucky. I wanted to make this video because it needed to be made, because it needed to be put out in the world for somebody else maybe struggling. And for you guys that do watch us and either on Twitch or on here, to know why we've been so scatterbrained, so distant, so just crazy. That is why we almost lost Estella. I'm sorry because this video is rambly. I'm sorry this video is almost an hour long. But that is our story. That is where we have been. And I appreciate you guys. For the ones that have stuck by us, for the ones that have helped us through the situation. I'm going to shout out my man Shino Kara. Justin Rios. He's an amazing man. If it was not for Shino, I don't know if I could have made it through it either. Because Shino was the other MVP. Shino Kara, if you're watching this, man, I appreciate you. I love the hell out of you. You helped me when nobody else could. You told me everything's going to be okay whenever I couldn't even believe it myself. Whenever I would message you broken and down, you were like, dude, I got you. It's going to be okay. I know it is. I feel it in my soul. I have been praying about you You have got this. He's got this. He's gonna be okay. And as stupid as it sounds, Shino, I've never met your ass. But by God, my friend, I will be there for you till the end because you helped me through something that I didn't think I was going to make it through a second time. I got that news that first day, and my heart crushed, my lungs deflated, and I didn't feel like I could breathe or take another step on this planet. And Shino swooped in like goddamn Superman on his fucking baby Shino-ass dragon and made me feel like it was all okay. That, you know, I had somebody there 24/7 to lean on. So you know what? I'm going to shout him out. This isn't the type of video to do that. I don't care. It's my video. Check out Shino Kira on Twitch because that man is amazing. Twitch.tv/Shino Kira, guys. Because he deserves it. He deserves every bit of love poured back into him that he poured into me during a time when I needed him. And I appreciate and love the hell out of that man. So Shino, if you ever make it 40 minutes, 38 seconds into this, man, I hope that you get all the love back that you have poured into me. Because I appreciate the hell out of you. You gave me strength whenever I couldn't get strength from anybody else, whenever I had to be the strength for everybody else in the situation. So I appreciate and love you. Guys, I'm going to try and get my channel back up and running. We are home now. Things have settled down. Acella's numbers are finally back where they should be. The albumin infusions have worked. We are still seeing the specialist, but the visits are getting farther and farther apart. We have Acella, guys. We have Acella, and I couldn't be happier. I appreciate each and every one of you. I thank you for taking the time out to watch this incredibly long-ass video. I'm going to do my best to put out content that you guys want to see. I've got some stuff in the works. I need to get with my friend Marshall to figure out what's going on with his ideas. I'm going to hopefully have another series about Amp-Guard garb. I want to show you guys more into that world. I want to show you guys more into what I do. I'm going to be running a stream from here on out probably about every night. There'll be a couple of days off a week that I will be taking off. I don't know what those days are. But every day, anywhere from 3 to 5, I'll be starting and streaming just until I can't anymore. I appreciate you guys. I love you. Have a good day. Bye.